Hi guys, welcome back to a phone review. Yes, it has been a while from me. So this is Xiaomi's latest release. It is the Redmi Note 8 Pro. Now what is interesting about this phone is they decided MediaTek was the CPU to go for this time around. So they didn't go with a Qualcomm Snapdragon 730 as I thought they probably would have, or even the 675 which they've used before. But no, they went with the Helio G90T. Now this model has 6GB of RAM and 128GB of storage, so was it a mistake for them to go with MediaTek, or is it actually a decent chip and we're not really missing out on much not having a Snapdragon in this particular model? Let's find out.
Inside the box you'll find our Type-C cable. We've got the quick charger which is 18 watts. Now this is using MediaTek's Pump Express, but it does actually support this phone here, Qualcomm's Quick Charge 3, according to Xiaomi it will, and there's actually internals that show that yes, it does have the correct chipset in there to support it, and apparently even Qualcomm's Quick Charge 4, but I'm not too sure about that. I cannot confirm it because I don't have a Quick Charge 4 charger with me right here. Type-C cable, which is grey and white, and we do get this TPU case, which as you can see is fine. The quality is alright, but it's good that we do have this included in the box. So looking first at the rear of the phone here, we do have Gorilla Glass 5 front and back. We've got 4 cameras here, so 2 of them are 2 megapixels. One's used for the portrait mode, your depth mode. The other is a dedicated macro shot mode too as well, so you can get up and close for macros with high detail. And then the main camera, which is 64 megapixels, that is a Samsung sensor, and it's the first time that I will be looking at it. I believe that Xiaomi has exclusive rights to it for a little while. I think they're using it first on their Redmi lineup, of course. I think this is the first phone to have it. 8 megapixel ultra wide camera as well, and our fingerprint reader, which is right here on the rear. Redmi branding, and the back of it does feel solid. Curved edges. Along the bottom we have a loudspeaker, just the single one here. There is no dual loudspeakers on this. Microphone, Type-C port, and 3.5mm headphone jack. So the buttons on the right hand side, they are made out of metal. They have a good feel to them. They don't rattle around either. We've got a secondary mic here at the top used for noise cancellation and in video. And yes, there is an IR transmitter, as you can see right there. On the left, you'll find the SIM tray here, which will take 2 nano SIMs or micro SD card and nano SIM. It has a rubber gasket around it. This is probably just to keep out dust. There is no IP rating with this particular mobile phone here. And this SIM tray is metal reinforced. Now at 203 grams, this phone is heavier than the previous generation, and this is because it has a larger battery. It's 4,500 mAh. It is also 8.9 millimeters thick, thicker because of this increased battery capacity. Now if you measure the camera bump, that then brings it up to 10.6 millimeters thick. And if you're wondering where is the status LED, did they include one? Well, you can just see it right there. Now that I'm charging, there's a tiny little white LED. So the screen, as you can see, has slimmer bezels left and right. The way they have done the notch is slightly different versus the Redmi Note 7. And the bottom bezel here too as well, you can see, does look a little slimmer, and it in fact is. They've shaved some millimeters off here to make it a bit slimmer. So overall it looks good. I'll demonstrate the face unlocking right now. So if I just lock the phone, look at it and unlock, you see you get a little tick here. And swipe up, that's unlocked. Fingerprint unlocking as well is very quick. So as soon as I tap that, it unlocks straight away. I'll just demonstrate that. I'll touch it now. You can see it's unlocking in about a second or so, even under a second. So that is very quick. Now the first impressions of the screen, I'll take a look at it in detail right here, is that it is a nice looking IPS panel here. So the resolution is 2340 by 1080p. It is 6.53 inches, so slightly larger than the Redmi Note 7's screen. Now the front-facing camera too, just to point it out, that it has increased in megapixels, so it's now 20 megapixels instead of the 13 we had on the Redmi Note 7. Earpiece at the top is still a traditional earpiece, so it's not actually behind the screen, it's not vibrating through the glass, and I've made a few voice calls on this. It does sound good. No complaints with the voice call quality. So this screen has a tiny little bit you can probably pick up of shadowing just around the notch, which I see a lot of on these IPS panels that have the teardrop or water drop style notch. The gamma is 2.0. It should be closer to 2.2, but for a mobile phone, I mean, that is pretty good. Overall, it is a nice pen. I'll just give you a quick sample of some real world images here. This is at 50% brightness. So the maximum brightness tops out at about 380 lux. So it is not actually the brightest screen out there, but you should still have no issues whatsoever trying to make this out. And direct sunlight a little bit, perhaps, but overall, this is a good panel that Xiaomi has selected and gone with. So there's been one firmware update that has come through for the phone, and it has really improved the performance. When I first got it, was first using it, I noticed that there was just a little bit of lag everywhere, that it felt a little bit stuttery, but that has completely changed. The performance of this phone feels very good at the moment. It feels like something like a Snapdragon 710 or the Snapdragon 675. So that's the update that came through. It was just 218 megabytes. Yes, I'm on the Chinese ROM. Now, this is just a couple of things I wanted to point out that, yeah, you can hide the notch if you're not happy with it. And you can see right now with the white background, just a little bit of that shadowing that I was talking about. And that is kind of to be expected. I'm seeing it really with every single phone that has an IPS panel and a notch or teardrop notch like this. Free space on first use is 114 gigabytes. You also have this right here, add filter. Now, I think this is to do with the advertising that comes through. That I pointed this out, especially with the Xiaomi Mi 9, that I wasn't particularly happy with them having advertising in the stock apps. I think this could be a way now to disable it, that they're pushing through that option. So no wide Vine level 1 cert. So this means that Netflix and Amazon Prime is not going to be in full HD, sadly. Hopefully they can update that and fix it, or maybe the global ROM will have that fixed, because the Chinese aren't really too bothered with that. So camera 2 API support is full. Level 3 would be the best, but full is still okay right there. And this is the internal storage. So I believe this is UFS 2.1 that they're actually using, but it's not running in, what is it, dual channel or something, so the performance isn't quite as fast as you'd expect, but still, it is good. No problems here. You can see with the 512 sequential reads, almost 200 writes, and good random 4K reads and writes there as well that we're getting. Wireless performance, so it's not the fastest as expected. This is not a flagship chipset. We're getting on average, depending where I am here in the studio, somewhere between about 120 and up to about 200 megabits per second. This is on 5G band, of course, of wireless. So it's not amazing fast, but what is impressive, and I think MediaTek have really focused on this, because previous MediaTek chipsets, GPS was kind of bad, but the performance-wise wasn't really that good. But I noticed that I got a lock very, very quick. And look at this, 2 meters of accuracy. Most phones, at least all the new phones I've been looking at, even the flagships with Qualcomm chips, they normally always have 3 to 4, or normally just 4 meters of accuracy. But right here, it's 2 meters. Walking around town, I noticed it was very accurate and no problems there. So this is the Antutu score, if you're wondering. Performance-wise, it's not actually that bad. The Helio G90T, we're getting a score there of 226,000. So it's very good. Now, performance-wise, I mentioned it is actually good. I'm not seeing any real stutter and lag now on that latest firmware. You can multitask quite well, move through things, and swapping, and Google Play Store doesn't come pre-installed, okay? This I had to install myself because it's the Chinese ROM. It's very easy to do. In fact, all you need to do is just go into the App Store, Xiaomi's own App Store, and then search Google, and you'll get the Google Play installer, which I have right here. It's in Chinese, but you just run through it, and it will get and install all of the APK files you need to have Google Play Store. So we just have the single loudspeaker on the bottom. The quality of it does sound very good to me. The output, there's bass. It doesn't distort at 100% volume. There is no secondary loudspeaker in the earpiece here, unfortunately, which would have been nice. But here is a sample of it with this Terminator 2 clip.
Get down.
Next up, a little bit of gaming. So this is PUBG. I'm going to run it on the ultra frame rate setting in HD. We'll see how it performs, and I'll also check on the thermals after 30 minutes of gaming. Just how hot does it get? So I've managed to get 3 kills. Performance is absolutely fine here with the Mali G76 MC4. No issues With the other games that I've been testing as well, no problem. So it looks like that Xiaomi's decision to go with MediaTek this time around instead of Qualcomm doesn't seem to be too much of an issue. Now, occasionally you will, probably just then, you might see now and then just a few little stutters, but overall it's not choppy or lag, anything like that. You can zoom in, looking down the sides here, and that is very quick and no problems. It's getting a little bit warm on the back, but let's check the temperature of that now with my thermal probe. Okay, so I gamed in PUBG for about 15 minutes approximately before I died. Well, I actually went into a second round as well. And when I exited out, I was running this right here, which is a stress test. So what this is doing is stressing all the cores, pushing it as hard as possible to test the throttling. Now you can see that it did throttle down to approximately, I would say, just below 90% performance there, which is to be expected with the mobile chip. They are going to throttle down. This happens on the Qualcomm, the Snapdragon chips as well. So how hot is it getting now? This is after about, I would say, approximately 30 minutes of stressing it out. Well, the gaming, if you include that. So almost 32 degrees. And if we check the rear, that doesn't feel that warm at all to me. This is about 30 degrees. So no problem so far with the thermals, but I will let you know if I do run into any issues. So I'm in the stock camera app right now, just to quickly run through here the modes that we've got. So video up to 4K, you can swap between the lenses just before you start recording, but once you start recording, you cannot swap between them once it's going. Unfortunately, they haven't allowed us to do that like some other manufacturers. Now the photo mode, we also have the same option, so you can swap to the ultra wide. It has 2 times, but it's just 2 times digital zoom we get there. The dedicated 64 megapixel mode, this is the only real change here with this phone, of course, the first to use this sensor here with Xiaomi. Portrait mode, blurred background, self-explanatory. You can change the effect there of the lens. If, for example, you had something like an f1.6 aperture, getting more blur on there in the background. Night mode, which is still not very good, so it doesn't really improve things too much. You've got the phone really still as well, just to allow it to capture more light without blurring. Panorama, straightforward, self-explanatory. Pro mode, so we've got white balance, our exposure as well, shutter rate, and you can set the ISO and swap between the different lenses as well there too. So this is a sample of 4K video, what you can expect. So the sound quality is still a bit of a low bit rate here. I think there's room for improvement, and you'll notice that the stabilization, or should I say lack of it, there is no electronic image stabilization. It's enabled with 4K, but it's clearly not working to me because the image still looks quite shaky. Now, it is working in 1080p at least. Now you cannot swap over to the ultra wide. It's just not possible. They don't let us do that, which would have been nice. You have to actually stop and then record separately. Focus, sometimes, as you can see, it's struggling. It's a little bit of a hit and miss at times. It's probably because it's lacking dual pixel phase detection autofocus. It really doesn't want to lock on sometimes onto my hand. It depends on the conditions there. But overall, it doesn't seem too bad. It's just that Xiaomi really does need to focus on adding electronic image stabilization and improving the audio quality. And then would have some decent, really good 4K video on this mobile. Now with the front-facing camera, you get 1080p max resolution, and again, there is no electronic image stabilization. As you can see, the quality is very good, but it's just that it really does need that stabilization, then it wouldn't be so shaky. So you really want to be using a gimbal, I feel, with this particular mobile phone if you want the best possible video quality, which will help remove all that shaking and tremor that you can see that's happening with the video here.
So as you can see from those photo samples, you can take decent photos. It's great having an ultra wide camera, and it looks like most phones from now on are always going to have at least 3 or 4 cameras. I don't know about the macro, how many people would really be taking advantage of that macro lens, 2 megapixels. It's not a great resolution, but if you wanted to get some close-ups of coins or flowers or insects and things like that, or with the flower you can see the bits of pollen on it, you're able to do it. At least it's a good option to have there. So front-facing camera looks like it has improved. Well, we've got a higher resolution now. It's capturing a little bit more detail. Portraits seem good on that. The stitching seems to be okay. Battery life. Now, I wanted to talk a little bit about this because I don't have my full stats yet because I'm benchmarking. I'm taking a lot of photos, a lot of video, gaming excessively. It doesn't really seem like my normal kind of test use, so I need to go back to fully charging it again and then run through my test. So I will have a follow-up of that. But what I can say is the battery life so far doesn't look as good as the previous generation. So the Redmi Note 7, I think, is going to have better battery life. Or this one's going to be about on par. So why they added the additional 500 milliamp hours I can see now is to just try and match the previous generation, because let's face it, these MediaTek chips, these ones now, the newer ones so far are a lot better than the previous generations. But what is happening is the efficiency is still not as good as Qualcomm's chips, and I'm seeing that already. But it does look like it's going to be a 2-day mobile phone for most people, heavy use at least 1 day. Without a doubt, it's not going to be a problem there. And I did notice that the performance dramatically improved over the original firmware that this had. It was a little bit choppy here and there. I was seeing some stutter. I was seeing gesture stutters. I was even seeing a little bit of lag in the keyboard. Typing was coming through, and that was really off-putting. I thought, wow, this MediaTek chip was a really bad decision. But now I can see it's fine. I mean, we're getting decent Antutu scores if you love your synthetic benchmarks. But the gaming performance, all the games I've tested, they're playable. It's smooth frame rates. Now the thermals, not an issue. I know on social media a lot of comments probably going to be in this video saying that, oh, it's got a massive problem, it's a deal breaker, it's overheating, it's getting far too hot, it's throttling. I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing it at all. Previous phones I've been looking at, this is getting up to around about the 30 something degrees, low 30s that you'd expect after 30 minutes or 1 hour of gaming. It really is a cool running chip for me, at least with this model. Maybe it was the first batch. Maybe they had a batch that didn't have the thermal paste on, or the transfer pipe wasn't correctly connected or something causing those issues. But I'm not having any problems right here for that. Now, it's the typical Xiaomi issues that I'm seeing with this phone. So far, I think this is a step up over the Note 7 for the slimmer bezels, the improved cameras. So the Redmi Note 7 is still a good phone, but if you want the better cameras, go for this one. But, okay, what I am seeing though is the 4K video stabilization, electronic image stabilization isn't there. It's enabled, but it's just clearly not working. Front-facing camera should have electronic image stabilization, again, not there. Audio quality in video, not good. Audio quality, 3.5mm output with music, very good. Voice calls, very good. Loudspeaker, good. It's only a single loudspeaker. Call quality as well is decent. There's really a lot to like about this phone here. It's just they need to fix the Widevine level 3 cert, make it a level 1 cert. Hopefully that's going to come on the global ROM. Remember, I am on the Chinese version here. So all up, I think it's an upgrade over the Redmi Note 7. It's just the area of concern for me isn't the thermals, it's the battery life. I don't think it's going to be able to match the Redmi Note 7. But after a couple of battery cycles, I'll check back on that. I will update you in the comments of this video or in Twitter and let you know my exact battery stats out of this phone. Face unlocking, the fingerprint reader on the back. I'm trying to push it on the front. Very quick. It's only about a second. Touched it then. Under a second. Faster than the in-screen fingerprint readers. And I do like that they've gone with the, of course, rear fingerprint capacitive, always on reader. Really good. So thank you so much for watching this review. I do hope to see you back in the channel. I'll have more mobile phone reviews up and coming. So do stay tuned for those. Bye for now.